Former Governor Steve Beshear firing back against allegations of wrongdoing in his administration.
I'm not going to stand by and serve as a punching bag for Mr. Bevin for the next 4 years.
His harsh words for Governor Matt Bevin and Bevin's response.
Ted Cruz naming a running mate without winning the Republican nomination for president. Find out who he's bringing into his campaign.
UK coach Matthew Mitchell talking about the challenges facing the women's basketball program and how he's working to fix them.
WKYT News starts now with First Alert Weather.
More rounds of showers and storms rolling across the area this afternoon, and some of those have been fairly strong.
We begin tonight with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey, who is tracking the storms right now for us.
Yeah, a couple of those storms likely producing at least some small hail across sections of Casey County, heading into Lincoln County now, and a lot of folks getting in on soaking rains, maybe eventually too much rain as the rounds of showers and storms continue to come at us. Let's focus on the one warning within our area right now. That is a severe thunderstorm warning. That is out for Casey and Lincoln counties. That will go until 5:15. Strongest part of this storm may be producing some small hail. You see the track on that over the next hour. It's a very slow mover, by the way, kind of drifting its way toward the east into parts of the Waynesburg area. That may have, again, some hail that could be up to quarter size at times. Northeast of the Middleburg area over toward Walltown, Kings Mountain, Waynesburg, you're in the line of fire for some hail, so you may want to get the car in the garage. To the southwest of Campbellsville, one more little thunderstorm complex, and look at the lightning show coming from the skies here. Clay County toward sections of the Mount Vernon area. Stuff around Barberville now beginning to calm down a little bit, but you get into Livingston, I-75 corridor, it is really coming down. To the north of that, Interstate 64, general run-of-the-mill rains across the Lexington area. Light to moderate rains coming down. That's why you had Officer Don talking about all the slow go out there on the roadways. Now I'm going to focus on some stuff coming out of western Tennessee and western Kentucky. Notice the lightning strikes on the last few frames between Bowling Green and Paducah beginning to ramp up. This isn't necessarily an environment for big-time severe weather. Some local hail is a possibility. It's more about the high water potential, I think, on a local scale as we go through the rest of the evening into the overnight. And guys, when I come back in a few minutes, I've got a new future radar that will break down the progress of these storms over the next 12 hours. And we'll show you what that future radar looks like when I come back.
Thanks, Chris. He says he's not going to sit by and be bullied. Today, former Governor Steve Beshear fired back at current Governor Matt Bevin.
It comes a week after the governor made accusations of wrongdoing during Beshear's 8 years in office. WKYT's Hillary Thornton begins our top story team coverage at 5.
Former Governor Steve Beshear saying today that current Governor Matt Bevin has declared war on both his family and his administration.
Because he started this food fight that he enjoys instead of governing by calling us liars, by criticizing my wife, and now by ginning up a political investigation to try to sully our reputation. And quite simply, I'm not going to stand back and let him do that. I'm proud of what we did for 8 years.
The former governor strongly denying accusations made by Bevin, then going on an attack of his own, calling the current governor a, quote, vindictive bully who is attacking the Beshear family and administration to distract from his actions and decisions made since taking office.
Every time he throws a falsehood at me, I'm going to hit him between the eyes with the truth about him.
Beshear's claims include that Bevin coerced university presidents into a budget cut agreement, as well as that he is unethically raising funds to cover his campaign debt, and that he bullied Democratic legislators to switch parties.
And threatened to cancel road projects in their districts if they didn't comply. When they refused, he said he'll destroy them. And folks, I understand that the FBI may be looking into that kind of conduct.
Beshear says many advised him to just sit back and ignore the accusations by Bevin, with today's news conference being the last thing he wanted to do. However, he says he will not sit back and be a punching bag for the next 4 years. In Frankfort, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
Beshear talked about his Secretary of the Personnel Cabinet, Tim Longmire, who pled guilty to a federal bribery charge. The former governor says Longmire betrayed him, and if he had any knowledge of his criminal actions, he would have been fired on the spot.
Governor Matt Bevin is in Europe this week on an economic development trip, but it didn't take Governor Bevin's office long to fire back at Mr. Beshear. His office issued a statement just before noon. WKYT Sean Moody continues our top story team coverage from the live desk. Sean?
Hey there, Sam. A spokesperson for Governor Matt Bevin and the Republican Party of Kentucky had harsh words of their own for former Governor Steve Beshear. They said he didn't have any evidence to back up his allegations and that he was just trying to save his legacy. Bevin spokeswoman Jessica Ditto said, quote, after a top-level appointment of both him and his son pleaded guilty to federal bribery last week, former Governor Beshear is merely trying to protect what is left of his legacy. Every wild, baseless accusation he has attempted to levy is not corroborated by any facts whatsoever. Governor Bevin is focused on the job the people of Kentucky elected him to do, which is to restore fiscal responsibility and create economic opportunity. He will let the investigation take its course and has said all he intends to say about the matter, end quote. Republican Party of Kentucky spokesman Trey Watson said Beshear is trying to cover for the Democratic Party.
This is a governor who is desperate to keep the misdeeds of himself, his party, for more than 50 years in Frankfort in the shadows. They want to keep Kentuckians in the dark as to how they operated their government, how taxpayer dollars were used.
Now, Watson also criticized Beshear's decision to hold this news conference while Bevin was out of town on that economic development trip. Beshear said in that news conference that when he arranged the date of it, he wasn't aware that Bevin was out of the country. At the live desk, Sean Moody, WKYT.
And Watson said he applauded Bevin's approach of looking for an outside investigator to look into the Beshear administration. Beshear has said the Executive Branch Ethics Commission should handle it. Remember, you can find full coverage of this story on WKYT.com. Senator Ted Cruz taking an unusual step today in the Republican race for president.
As Craig Boswell shows us, he is going ahead and naming a running mate before winning the nomination.
Ted Cruz hasn't won the Republican nomination, but that isn't stopping him from announcing Carly Fiorina will be his running mate if he is the nominee. The move may be too late for Cruz. Donald Trump swept Tuesday's primaries and is on track to clinch the nomination before this summer's convention. Wednesday, Trump focused on foreign affairs during a policy speech in Washington.
I'd like to talk today about how to develop a new foreign policy direction for our country, one that replaces randomness with purpose.
Trump's foreign policy address here at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington is billed as the first in a series of policy speeches before heading off to Indiana, the site of next Tuesday's primary.
Clinton is looking ahead to the general election and is taking exception to Trump's comment that she plays the woman card.
If fighting for women's health care and paid family leave and equal pay is playing the woman card, then deal me in.
Bernie Sanders is also in the Hoosier State campaigning ahead of next Tuesday's vote. Craig Boswell, CBS News, Washington.
Indiana has 57 delegates up for grabs for Republicans and 92 for Democrats.
An underwater search team spending a second day searching a lake for any sign of a missing man. Our county-by-county coverage begins in Laurel County. Clarence Holmes disappeared back in July of 2012 while helping other boaters during a storm on Laurel Lake. This team from Louisiana is searching an area where they think an underwater tree could hold the remains. That they'll be back at that lake tomorrow to check on that. In Campbell County, police are cracking down on what they call heroin rush hour. Fort Thomas police say they have noticed addicts tend to wake up and drive to Cincinnati for their morning fix about 9 or 10 a.m. They've launched a heroin interdiction team to keep intoxicated drivers off the roads. They say addicts often carpool together on these trips.
UK women's basketball coach Matthew Mitchell took time to answer questions surrounding his program this afternoon. WKYT's Rob Bromley's here now with the issues that Coach Mitchell addressed. Rob?
Yeah, the Big Blue Nation wondering where the UK women's basketball program is headed after 6 players departed since last fall and 3 assistants have left since the end of the season. Talking at length for more than 45 minutes this afternoon, Matthew Mitchell blamed himself. He said it was up to him to bring stability. He said there have been a lot of moving parts over the last 3 weeks, and he said he realizes things do not look good, but he's confident that he can pull it together.
You know, I have been trying to do my very best to handle every situation as it's come about. They all tie together, but when you're in my position, you care about people and you're trying to help people, you got to handle those situations, and you can't really worry about the big picture at times. You got to make sure you're trying to take care of people and be responsive to their needs. I have given some thought, and I am in a really confident place right now that we are going to get this. What we do with our staff, I believe, is going to signal stability.
Well, Mitchell believes the first good step is the hiring of Kyra Elzy as associate head coach. That story breaking yesterday. He formally announced her hiring today. Elzy was an outstanding player, had a 4-year stint on Mitchell's staff before leaving for Tennessee. Now she is back.
Rob, thank you. Matthew Mitchell has coached the UK women's team for 9 seasons now. The Cats have advanced to the NCAA tournament 7 consecutive years. We're getting an update on Lexington's Centerpoint project. What the developer tells us is happening at the site.
Doctors testing a new way to treat liver cancer. The role beads are playing in the treatment and better living.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey.
A little noisemaker out there for a lot of us again this afternoon in the form of thunderstorms, heavy rain, and the potential for some small hail and maybe some strong winds for localized areas. Let's get into a busy Defender radar network lining up especially across parts of southern Kentucky with several little clusters of thunderstorms that are on the move, and we are getting these little waves to come on through town. Severe thunderstorm warning until 5:15 for a part of Casey into Lincoln County. This storm is weakening right now, but that warning has been pushed a little farther to the east into southern parts of Lincoln County as of now. That looks like it, at least for a small part, will replace the initial warning that is set to expire in just a few minutes. That'll go until 5:30. That'll cross into parts of northern Pulaski County. But again, this storm looks like it is weakening. Stronger storm now to the southwest of the Liberty area. This storm, though, on top of Waynesburg, heading toward northern Pulaski County and the Mount Vernon area, Rockcastle County, may have some hail with it. We've had reports of a little hail coming from this on the east side of the Liberty area there into Casey County. Let's go into 3D Defender mode, and we're looking for that vertical development on this thunderstorm. And I can tell you, compared to a scan a few minutes ago, this one has come down just a little bit. Looking back to the west, storm behind this is spiking up, and that's going to continue to grow. And there's one more little severe thunderstorm to the west of Campbellsville. That's actually getting close to Campbellsville into parts of Taylor County as of now. What's happening with these storms, similar to yesterday, more bark than bite. They pulse up briefly, they flex a little muscle, throw a little hail down, and then they collapse. It's not a widespread severe weather event that we're looking at right now. Strongest storms, actually, trying to pop here to the northeast of London, heading into McKee, Anvil, Jackson County, northwest of Manchester into Clay County, and this strong little storm likely having a little hail with it to the north of Livingston into Rockcastle County. North of that, it's just raining across much of central and northeastern Kentucky. Some locally heavy downpours across the downtown Lexington area, causing a lot of problems on the roads that Don will talk about here in a little bit. Focusing on this thunderstorm clusters western Kentucky now into western Tennessee. That's going to roll in here. Future radar, hour by hour, tries to grow that into a hefty little line of some thunderstorms middle and latter part of the evening. By 3-4 o'clock in the morning, we're starting to clear out. Loop that one more time to see those storms kind of coming at us in waves with heavy rains likely to be the primary player in terms of the overall threat through the evening into the wee hours of the morning. Tomorrow stuff, yes, some storms are around. It's more scattered. Breaking the action on Friday. Cue the storm Saturday into Sunday with heavy rains and a stormy setup that will carry us into early next week. Kentucky Derby week, as of now, much cooler and likely to be unsettled by the middle of the week again.
But subject to change, too.
Subject to change as well, but this is a cooler pattern that has been advertised for a little while. Watch the storms this evening, southern Kentucky.
I hear her groaning over
I know.
here.
I know.
Trying not to.
We'll work
Sorry,
on Oaks Day
sorry.
for you, all right?
Live look at Lexington rush hour traffic this afternoon. Of course, with the rain, we're working about 4 collisions right now. It's very slow, including a crash at Liberty and Mickey. That is a non-injury collision. Got a new one at Manowar and Nichols Park there, Nicholasville Road, that has the right lane blocked. There's also one at Harrison Parkside. Drive times will be impacted this afternoon, so it looks like to Winchester we could see a little more heavy traffic dealing with. Also outbound to Nicholasville this afternoon, slower than usual. Now back to you in the studio.
There are plenty of projects in the works for Lexington's Main Street. We'll show you what's ahead for downtown coming up.
Vandals targeting a southern Kentucky park. We'll see the damage they cause on WKYT News at 5:30.
Keep up with the latest news on WKYT.com. Join the conversation on Twitter and become a part of the WKYT Facebook family.
Ohio's Attorney General toured the 4 homes where 8 people were murdered. 7 adults and a teenager, all members of the same family, were killed in the town of Piketon last week. The AG held a news conference after his tour. He called the murders devastating.
And you see all the evidence, of course, of people living in a house. And so if we need to be reminded of the gravity of the situation, that just sort of brings it home.
The Attorney General did not reveal any new details on the investigation, but vowed authorities will not give up before they find the killer or killers.
The suspect in the Paris terror attacks is back in France. The lawyer for Salah Abdeslam says he has been moved from Belgium to a high-security prison south of Paris. Investigators say he was instrumental in coordinating the November 13th attacks that killed 130 people. He's been charged with a long list of terror-related offenses. A Minnesota judge has appointed a trust company to temporarily oversee Prince's estate. Bremer Trust will act as a special administrator for 6 months or until a personal representative is appointed. Prince's sister filed paperwork asking for a special administrator yesterday because he did not have a will. Today, we are getting an update on the Centerpoint project. Developer Dudley Webb took part in a panel this morning discussing projects to improve downtown Lexington. And as WKYT's Caitlin Sentner shows us, Webb says work at Centerpoint is moving along.
Downtown's the heart of the community. It's reflective of the entire community. It's where the viability and the heart and soul of the city happens.
Downtown Lexington is changing, and that's what developers want.
If we're going to recruit and retain knowledge-based young professionals, we've got to have just an awesome downtown. Part of that is great green spaces, lots of awesome restaurants and bars, and amazing places to live.
Commerce Lexington invited a panel Wednesday to chat about what's happening downtown. The focus, Main and Midland streets. Midland will get a facelift with added retail and eateries, as well as a rooftop greenhouse. And on Main, Centerpoint is a huge development.
There hasn't been development in this downtown square for a number of years. The Centerpoint project has been a huge area of focus and conversation as of late. Dudley Webb sat on Wednesday's panel.
Right now, you're seeing a lot of activity in the hole. It's necessary for us to go ahead and put weatherproofing around the limestone edge of the project, so that's happening. It's like a swimming pool edge. Next step will be they'll put a liner on. Next step will be on that. They'll put the retaining walls in. That'll form the garage. Then we're going to go right on up with the project.
According to Webb, within 2 years, it'll go from a home to a massive structure with 2 hotels and office space. Needless to say, the developers were excited to discuss what's to come. In Lexington, Caitlin Sentner, WKYT.
Webb says it'll take another 10 months to get the parking garage built and then a year beyond that to finish the 2 hotels and office space. Vandals causing damage to a southern Kentucky park. We'll show you what they did on WKYT News at 5:30.
A new treatment for liver cancer and why working out at home might be better for your wallet than a gym membership. The story's next in Better Living. It is time now for Better Living, health, education, and consumer news that impacts your life. Doctors in New York have started using a promising new treatment for liver cancer. As Dr. Max Gomez shows us, it involves tiny beads coated with a chemotherapy drug.
When Patrick Delaney was being worked up for a hepatitis treatment, doctors found something unexpected.
The white is a tumor.
That's a pretty good sized tumor there.
Sure, it's about 2 inches.
Patrick had 2 of those tumors in his liver and they were inoperable.
You know, you start thinking about how much time you got left.
The tumors were early stage, and doctors at Mount Sinai were about to make him one of the first patients in the country to have a new technique done using something called Lumi beads that are coated with a chemotherapy drug.
The advantage of the Lumi bead is that you'll have diminished side effects.
Because the drug comes out slower?
Correct, because the drug will release slower, and so the maximum effects will be in the tumor and not in the body.
Dr. Kim can actually thread a tiny catheter through the wrist, and because the tiny Lumi beads show up in x-rays, he can tell when he's in a blood vessel that feeds just the tumor. There's a double killing effect, the chemo drug, and especially because the Lumi beads block blood flow to the tumor.
So far, 9 out of 10 patients, we've seen a complete response.
No side effects, no downtime. whatever happens in the future is the future. But right now, I feel like I hit the lotto.
A month after 2 treatments, there's just scar tissue where the tumor once was. Dr. Max Gomez, CBS News, New York.
That is incredible. Liver cancer is considered one of the most difficult to treat cancers because there are few good surgical or treatment options. An estimated 15 million Americans do some type of rotating shift work. But what kind of toll do those shifts take on your health? Researchers looked at a group of female nurses and found a small increase in the number of heart disease cases.
Even though the absolute risks we observed were small, and the contribution of shift work to coronary heart disease is modest, there is an opportunity to help and prevent coronary heart disease by trying to find out which are the characteristics of shift schedules that may carry the highest risk.
Rotating shift work was defined as working at least 3 night shifts per month in addition to morning and evening shifts. A gym membership might be good for your health, but it might not be the best way to spend your money. USA Today found the average cost of a gym membership is just under $60 a month, and 67% of memberships go unused. The report suggests at-home alternatives are better. Apps, videos, and online communities tend to be more affordable and easier to keep up with. Now, here's what's coming up at 5:30.